Right, so the next module is about the history of ego and the self. History of ego and the self. We have read about the history of past 100, 200 years, maybe 400 years, maybe different rulers. So many civilizations, they come and go. So many kingdoms, they come and go. Right? So many different buildings, wonderful buildings, Babylon civilization, pyramids, come and go. So many religions, human-made religions, come and go. Right? Some religions flourish a lot at some point. It's like almost when the entire world is following, and then they also vanish. So things come and go. Man-made things, human-made things, they come and go. Regardless of how glorious it could be. So, where do you think the ego started? As one of you said, is there an ego in a child born on one day? The answer was yes. Child born on day one has ego. Right? So, what do you think? Where the ego started?
Whenever you separate from the God.
Whenever you separate from God.
Or right at the instant of incarnation. In the womb itself.
In the womb the ego is created. Okay, that's what you say. Yeah. He's saying in the womb ego is created. Okay. So the parents made a mistake to create an ego, you mean that?
No, without ego you cannot physicalize.
Okay. And?
Does self also trigger ego?
The self triggers the ego, she's saying.
Ego is a quality of mind.
No, I'm asking, let's take a deep breath, ground. I'm asking, where did the ego start?
Okay.
What we have been told is when Adam was created, Adam alayhis salam was created. God really admired his creation and asked all the angels to bow down to him in his respect. There was one angel who refused. Like, he's made of clay, I'm made of light. Why should I bow to him? And that's where he started disconnecting. And that's who was Iblis. Satan we call. He supposedly got casted out of heaven, and that's where the disconnect started. And he actually challenged, saying that ki Adam ki jitni aulad hogi, all the offsprings of Adam, I'll be misleading them. It's like, okay, you keep misleading them, and as long as they keep asking for forgiveness, if they make mistake and they repent, I'll keep forgiving them. That's the story, like the starting of the ego thing.
Okay, so the ego started when the Satan decided that I'm going to keep misleading the children of Adam. Right?
When he refused to put his trust in God's word, his plan,
okay.
He was commanded.
So you mean to say
down.
Satan was the catalyst of the ego?
Yeah.
Okay, Satan was the catalyst of ego.
So when he questioned the
God, question God's command. Where did the ego started, initiated?
The sense of existence.
The sense of existence, he's saying. Yeah.
We have during cave time, the cave, what to say?
Early men.
Yes, early men. So we had to fight for our existence. There was a lot of fear and or being threatened by so many things. So to save them, protect them, that is how ego developed. It is all fear-based energies. Because it is all
early men, she's saying. Early men struggle triggered the building up of ego.
Building up of ego.
Okay, very sweet answers. Okay. Yes.
We were wired from that time. What I think is one of the
Not
reasons.
bad. Very near. The reptilian brain you are talking about. Yes, and? You don't know? You have ego?
Yes.
How you don't know it?
So,
From where it started,
Hmm.
thinking
we were not so aware of ourselves. What to say, राक्षसी प्रवृत्ति जब ज़्यादा थी शायद इसकी वो धीरे धीरे हमने we started learning to develop the other or started focusing on divine energies. So at initial age when we were cavemen, we never knew that this is not our true selves. That is why we had ego, and then with future generation we started learning it to govern it or master it or work with it, work over it.
When not connected to self, the ego gets.
But first you said the self created the ego.
I questioned.
Now you're saying that be one in your.
Thank you.
You have to give one statement. You are giving two diabolical statements.
Yeah,
Both
because
are
this is
different.
between ego and self. That's where we are kind of trying
The
to
self
compare
created
or
the ego,
differentiate.
and you're saying that the ego got separate from the self. What you're saying?
The self triggered the ego.
Okay. And now what you're saying?
I'm saying is it when one is not connected to self, ego is created. I'm saying the same thing here. When you're not in touch with yourself, there
When you're
comes
not in
the
touch with yourself, that's the okay. But that's a very weird answer. Like, no, I mean, that's not a very specific answer. That's not weird, but it's not very concrete answer. That's a very abstract answer. I'm talking about when did it start? Like he said at the mother's womb. She said in the early men's period. Like that.
It is the game of mind.
Game of mind.
When they started inventing things, ego is the game of mind.
Ground again. Where did it start? What do you think?
Okay.
ऐसे तो फिर मैं ले जाऊंगा मुझे. Where did mind start? What is the mind? फिर वो अलग गोलोक से शिवलोक पहुंच जाओगे, शिवलोक से ब्रह्मलोक पहुंच जाओगे.
I think if we separate our brain in two parts, left and right. Right brain is a past data of your hard disk, which process your hard disk of your past lives. And in the left brain, first data which you enters, whenever at the time of physicalization, first data encrypted in the left brain is ego. Or you can say ego is an intuitional part of the mind.
He's saying the same thing. The womb started.
Yes.
Okay. And
When we started,
Comparing.
yes, please.
it's comparison created.
comparison creates ego, you are saying.
Add on to that, comparison creates a false image of self, which creates ego.
Comparison creates a
False image of self. The
False.
world external image of self.
comparison creates the false image of the
Self.
self.
Which in turn turns into ego.
But isn't comparison like natural? I mean,
Comparison or just the fact that there are more than one. There's more than
I mean,
me.
you are saying that ego is superiority and inferiority.
No,
In
not
other
that
words,
way.
you're saying that
Not
comparison.
that way. Just when you get to know that there are more ways of being than just me,
Hmm.
then you start corrupting the true image of self.
Not getting you.
So let's say I got to know, going back to early men stage,
Hmm.
there was one tribe which thought that they are the only people who exist.
Hmm.
And then when they got to know there was another tribe,
Hmm.
that comparison or that the fact that there are more than me, more other kinds of people,
People who are like me.
that's what created the ego.
You
Because
mean-
it distorted the image of self.
You mean like mingling of the culture?
No.
Not acceptance kind of.
Not
What exactly you're saying? You sound like
separation sort of.
mingling of two cultures created ego. You sound like that.
Separation of traits.
Separation of
Separation of
traits.
traits.
You mean to say recognizing the uniqueness of different tribes?
Yeah.
That created the ego. Recognizing the uniqueness. You may write it down. Okay.
And when men started achieving many things,
Ah.
they started giving credit to themselves rather than God. Like you said, the scientists all get the information or ideas from the divine. And when they start identifying themselves with that idea, similarly, men with after a few generations, they started appreciating their development achievements, and then they started creating ego because that they are doing on their own. It's not something from the divine.
But be specific in your answer. First, you say that it started from the early men. Now you're saying that after the early men evolved, they started taking credit. Now they're having ego. I'm asking you where it all started.
No, I'm giving a different opinion. Maybe one this.
So you're having two viewpoints. You can't play like that.
Okay.
If we
Be
are-
very specific.
So we can have two points. This confusion only brings to clarity.
That is definitely true. But
Takes us to
tell your viewpoint. One viewpoint which you would like to stick to. Early men?
Early men.
Stick to early men.
If we are okay with the definition of ego, that it is a kind of protective shield that a person uses for himself, then I would definitely stick to that sense of existence.
Good. Yes. What you were saying is uniqueness, right?
So, the same answer I was just trying to give, when they started creating things and inventing things.
Okay.
Uh,
When people became smarter, they had ego.
and
She's
when they
saying.
saw like animals around them, they are better than them. Like
Okay.
then the comparison happened, like in the primitive
Yeah,
age,
exactly
the
that.
Stone Age. So that gave them that sense of
But even the
they are greater
idiots
being
who know
and
nothing, they
So,
also
so you're pointing out to the early men thing, right?
Yeah.
She's also pointing out to the early men thing. But what is your biological age? Roughly.
56.
What is your biological age roughly?
52.
Do you belong to the early men period? Do you belong to the early men period?
Carry those things.
You carry those things. Okay, you carry those things. So you mean to say that it's in your DNA?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, very smart. I was trying to roast you guys.
Where did the ego come from?
The situation of Adam, right?
Yeah.
The moment you realize that you're separate from God, you wanted to give yourself an identity.
The moment you realize or you think, what is your...
You felt
You felt.
yeah. That
The moment you felt that you are separate from God. That was the creation point of view.
Then initially there was a question, like who am I? But gradually then when you started doing things on your own, then you realize that you're something, and then ego started. Like if I can say in terms of periodic table, like hydrogen is a time when you separated. So there was a question mark, do I exist? Who am I? Do I exist? But when we came to the carbon point, lithium, beryllium, boron and then carbon. So that was the first time you thought that you are separate and you can take charge of your life. So carbon is the basic of all DNA, everything, every plant, that is the time when the ego developed and you took charge of it.
You're talking about the physical...
Yeah, but that time the ego also started. With physical, your ego also, mind, body, everything came together.
Good. At the physical level, the ego started
At carbon.
at carbon, right?
Yeah.
Carbon archetype.
Yeah, carbon now, because that's the time when you was separate from the womb itself and you had to take charge and you had to induce the labor. You know, that I am in charge. So that was the carbon.
So hydrogen doesn't have it.
Hydrogen has a question. He's lost in this space. Like, do I belong here or there? The existence which he said.
The moment the I comes, the ego started.
Yeah, so that was, but it was very vague.
Yeah, it doesn't matter it's vague or clear.
That was a hydrogen point when you separated from God.
Yeah. So
Separated
where it
from
started? Give me one answer. Carbon
Yeah,
or
where-
hydrogen?
Hydrogen. When
Hydrogen.
you separated from the primordial soup,
Primordial
that
soup.
I give it.
But how?
Hydrogen is a very interesting atom. It's they say that it's if people understand how hydrogen works, we will have a totally different civilization, like a total different technology and infrastructure and electrical supply and fuel supply, all of that. Hydrogen is a very, very important.
We are carbon based, I think,
Mm.
not hydrogen.
Hydrogen is very important.
Lithium is a very interesting particle. I came to know yesterday. It's not on this planet. You cannot create it.
अच्छा बाहर से
And
आता है
it's not a mineral.
मीटरराइट से आता है
It's a Brahma Tattva.
अच्छा
We can believe that we'll talk later.
We have found lithium recently, right?
In India
But
somewhere in Kashmir
but that is not a mineral, and you cannot create it. And it's a Brahma Tattva as a limited quantity only.
so it must be somewhere from the outside the space
It's actually created at the time when there is a bang, and
Oh.
there is uranium explosion kind of things happening in the universe, and the effect of which on certain things on the planet and
Creates that condition.
That condition create the metal that is called as a Brahma metal, or this is a divine metal, and only 6 million ton in India, and total quantity is 11 million ton in the earth only. And we have second biggest. China has 1.5 million and are ruling all over the world with for lithium batteries. And we are having now 5 million, 6 million, second biggest. Chile has 9 million and India has 6 million.
interesting
But it is interesting that this is found now
Now.
in Kashmir.
Kashmir.
So it is actually a divine.
there was also a story about in Kerala there was a particular temple they found this radioactive element
Yeah, that is
Uh,
even when
NASA found that
Kerala, the beaches where we get uranium. There's a beach where we
that's
get
very
uranium.
interesting to observe so a holy place that was already radioactivated sounds interesting was it created yes so
So ego has connection with power.
ego is connection to everything ego is separate now so it makes connection with everything once you don't have ego you are power once you do not have ego you are power you are the light you are the God right? When you have the connection so you're still there in this experience I'm seeing this angel okay journey is long so as light workers we are not only meant to work with light which we do in the beginning but then we are supposed to be the light that's called beyond ascension going beyond ascension you were saying so everyone completed Sintanji
Yes, it defines a big eye actually.
where it started that's my question you're only defining it where it started that's what I'm saying 100 years
When we
back 10 years
identify
back
ourselves with eye, no? With big eye.
when we identify ourselves
ego started. Ego begins.
when we identify ourselves or when we became aware of the self-existence one and the same okay
Sense of existence.
ना वो हो गया उसी में ही आ जाएगा it's one and the same okay thank you so this ego is the root of all suffering right so first point ego was created from the womb how many hands raised 1 2 the answer is wrong ego was self triggers the ego that's yeah that is the thing but my question was where it started self started the ego okay so you mean to say self wanted to have trouble
Self has an identity. Self knows. I know myself. I have a self.
but then they create a baby
Yes.
right
Yes.
okay yes this is correct then the behavior or the promise of Satan created the ego.
Disobedience, basically the disconnectedness,
Questioning
inability
of
to
God.
comprehend God's command and accept it.
So you mean to say Satan created the ego, or Adam or Adam's children were misguided by Satan? What's your exact point? Satan created the
I
ego?
think that is my point of reference for birthing of ego. When
Birthing
he
of
said
ego.
कि I am better than this creation of God.
So
I am a better creation.
So you
than-
mean to say because Satan was misleading Adam, that triggered the generation of ego.
Yeah, I think.
That created
Yes.
the ego.
Yes.
So it was not Adam's fault to follow Satan.
No.
But what was the difference between Satan and Adam then? Satan did not follow the word of God. Adam
Yeah.
and his children also didn't follow the word of God. So what is the difference between Adam and Satan?
Because see, as an angel he had more power and he was in a बहुत मतलब बोलते हैं ना age old being. He was created long before and he has this power and wisdom to certain extent. And he with all his might focusing on misleading Adam and his children. So
Was
God.
Satan more powerful than God?
No.
Adam was connected to God or not?
Adam was connected to God, but then
So
free
it was
will
the
was
choice
given.
of Adam to follow Satan.
Yeah.
Yeah?
There was a free
So Adam
will.
created the ego.
There was a free will, yes.
Yes, there was free will. Claps for this. Satan is the poor being, he is doing his job. So, okay, very dangerous point. No? Going on YouTube. Please don't, this is just a personal opinion. If you want to throw nasty comments, please do not put on nasty comments. Okay, next is sense of existence. When we had a sense of existence or identity, yes, this is correct. Then what? Early man survival. How many of you say yes, no? The early man, yes, no. I say, have you thought?
Yes. Yes.
1, 2, 3. The answer is no. Recognizing the uniqueness. Yeah, you can say in an abstract manner. When they became smarter. So you mean to say people who are like
Idiots.
I was like sugarcoat it.
Sense of evolution.
People who are like challenging brain for whatever reason, God willing, जो भी है. So you mean to say that they do not have any ego?
In the steps of
They
evolution.
do have ego.
That's what I'm saying. Because
They
they
don't
do have
have
ego. They do have
ego. A smart
they
person
do
to have ego.
They do have their tantrums and their things and preferences and choices. So that's again. So I'm so sorry. You have to be willing to be smarter. Okay. Moment you felt separate from God. So I think it's one and the same. Like existence, uniqueness. So this is also true. So the hydrogen archetype or the hydrogen energy initiated this. The answer is yes or no.
That happened at the Big Bang. Then जब हम बोलते कि एकदम
Yes, no.
yes.
Yes, no. The answer is no.
पति पत्नी दोनों गलत हो गए.
But I have a doubt here.
हाँ.
That separation of God thing.
क्या?
Why, when you feel separated or you decide to separate yourself from God,
हाँ.
is a sense of ego. What if I choose to be an atheist?
हाँ.
I don't believe in God. Is
हाँ.
that an ego?
When you believe in God, that is also an ego. When
But
you are
here we
a
are
theist
talking
as
about
well,
not
you,
believing in God.
that's what I'm saying. Listen what I'm saying. When you are believing in God, that is also an ego. When you are a theist, you are also an ego. When you identify yourself, I am a religious person, I do so many parts, that is also ego.
Yes, yes.
I am a spiritual person, I do this mudra and that mudra, and kick people anyway, that is also ego.
Yes.
Or I don't kick people anyway, I am spiritual, that is also ego.
Can we say the moment we start identifying ourselves as ego?
Kind
Sense
of.
of
Kind of.
existence.
At the
There
moment
might be a vague ego, as she said. There might be a vague ego, and then there is a scarlet which is identified ego. But it all started
the
first.
moment I identified myself as human and that is animal, then also I created an ego.
Yeah, but that is not the correct answer. Okay, yes.
So not believing in God, how can that be egoistic?
What I'm
But that's
saying,
a choice.
that's what I'm saying. Even
हमने
believe,
भगवान को ऐसा क्यों बना रखा है कि तुमको मानना ही है? तुम मान रहे हो तो ठीक है, मतलब तब ईगो है तब भी ओके है, लेकिन अगर नहीं मान लो तब तो ईगोइस्टिक हो गए, ऐसा वाला होगा.
नहीं ऐसा नहीं. But that's what I'm saying. Even when you're believing in God, you are into ego.
Yes.
Yes.
But that is okay ego. This is not okay ego.
No, this is what the society thinks. We are here discussing about ego in a very neutral manner. We are not talking about approval of others.
ठीक है. इसके पहले भी we have written this question कि if you are not believing in God, it's an ego. Why?
Even if you believe in God, that is also
Okay, but
ego.
this is not the answer.
Even when you're believing in God, this is ego. Even when you're not believing in God, that is also ego. Because God is something beyond the mind. See, God is beyond the concepts. We can have a concept that God is a very loving person. But then you will have a tragedy. You will see people suffering like that. You might say, God is very bad. This person was so good. He or she had so much of tragedy. This is ridiculous. I don't believe in you and all of that. Even when you're saying that I don't believe in you, you're still saying I believe in you because you're trying to fight with God at that time, right? So you might create a comforting presence, a comforting sense of what God is. Are you hearing me? You might create that. That's what many spiritual teachings, including religious teachings, say that. And now we're heading into dangerous territory here. Right? Very advanced stuff. So just take a deep breath. So you might create, or you might have been taught that God is a very loving being, but that may not be true in your experience. You might have been taught that you need to fear God and God is a very jealous being, but that again may not be true in your experience. So God is actually not a concept to be grasped by the mind. God is something way beyond the mind. God has to be realized directly. It's almost like I can tell you a lot about the sunshine. Sunshine is this, sunshine is that. But then going outside, experiencing sunshine directly is another thing. Right? I can tell you a particular sweet or a chocolate is like that. But tasting it first hand is another story. You might try to put it in words. How many of you had highs or good feelings in life ever for whatever reason that you couldn't describe in your words? Or a relationship, a connection, a food, whatever it is. You had that experience, couldn't describe in words. In other words, you were not able to comprehend in your mind. Right? So bliss is something that is beyond the mind. You might have happiness or so-called joy in a certain sense of definition, but bliss is something beyond the mind. Bliss is something beyond the mind. When you get high on drugs and even high on meditation and trying to release your responsibility about life, you might get those small flashes of bliss. Small flashes. The point is to give you that permanent access in bliss, permanent anchoring in the zone of grace. You want that or not? Permanent anchoring in the zone of grace. Permanent anchoring in the zone of bliss.
The question was related to this only, the question of love with God. That I had to ask.
So let me finish
yes,
my
yes.
saying. So when you say I believe in God, you're still saying I believe in the man-made God, or how my mind created God, or how the mind of other people who are authority figures in my religion and spirituality that created God. That is again ego. It's trying to think that God is like this. God is having 4 hands and sleeping like that, or God is a blue skin, or brown skin, whatever that is, with all due respect, right? So these are the concepts, and that is limited and that is not God. Okay, these might be the versions of God. I'm not saying you can learn from something about them, but either if you say that God is an old person with a long beard and looking very seriously about what you're doing with your sex life, that is also not God. Are you getting me? So believing in God is an ego. Not believing in God is also an ego, because you have not done enough of self-inquiry. A wise person is someone who experiments the teachings, the laws. Okay? He or she goes into why this happened, why that happened. Basically what I'm saying, if you are drawing a conclusion, without doing your inner work, simply because someone said so, or you had your own small experience of 20, 30, 40 years of your life, and you're saying that God is there or God is not there, that is ego. Getting that? Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Just questioning that concept of God is there or not there.
Yes.
It is ego. Who is doing that? Ego, God है नहीं है, God का तो मतलब नहीं है, तुम सोच रहे हो ना, because you have ego.
And I often say this interesting, क्या बोलना चाहिए? Interesting example. Imagine there's a single red blood cell running in your body, and the single blood cell says, "Does Akshat exist or not? Akshat is a myth. It is already part of my body. I have nothing to do with it. It is here tomorrow. It will be excreted out. Exist or not?" So we are like that. We are so tiny, and we think, does God exist or not? The good thing is we are connected to God anyway. Okay, so इसमें now let's go into why some of the concepts were I crossed it as wrong. In the womb, you see, are you a physical body? Are you a physical body? Yes, no?
Yes.
No.
Are you completely a physical body?
No.
Yes, no?
No.
You have a mind,
Yes.
you have an emotion, you have a heart. You think that you have a soul, so to speak. Maybe if you're not realizing that you are the soul, but you think that you have a soul. Right?
Yes.
So if you connect this to the womb only, you are only limiting it to the physical body. You have astral body, you have etheric body, you have mental body, you have causal body, atmic body, monadic body, logoic body, and many other bodies that we don't know of. Right? So according to some teachings, it is at the, should I tell you the exact point? According to the ancient teachings, it is the causal body. Causal body is the ego. Causal body is the ego. So you have a physical body, you have an etheric body or the energy body, like the acupuncture practitioners, pranic healing practitioners work on, and then you have the astral body or the emotional body, the body of desires, emotions, and then you have the mental body, okay? And then beyond that, you have something called as the causal body. The causal body is the triggering point of the human ego. That is again very limited. Ego is much wider than that. But let's say human ego. It is the human ego, the place of the human ego. So when you die physically, you are led into the astral world, and you have to die there as well. Then you move into the mental world. Then you die there as well. You move into the causal world. So that's why we say when you're in the body, clean up your emotions and feelings and do your forgiveness here only. Otherwise, it's a very tough journey there. It's 100 times more, 100 times more, 500 times more. Whatever emotion that you're having, if it's negative, get rid of it. I mean, not trying to get rid of it, but process it properly. Seek a therapist, take a workshop, do something about it, do some inner work. That's why we call it inner work. We are not just sitting there. It's called inner work, digging. That's what we talk about it. So, before that, make sure that as much as stuff is, that's why we talk about forgiveness and all. So, now point is, how does the causal body is created? You see, life evolves in different stages. Okay? There is something called as the elemental, or you can say the causative force of thought. Now we are going very deep. Then what happens is the thought. Even thought is a kind of being. Have you noticed that when you think about a particular thought, positive or negative, it manifests. That's a real being. You might have heard in teachings that thoughts are real. Beware of thoughts. Then after the thoughts comes in, as a thought evolves, it becomes an emotion. Or the emotion. Okay? Remember, we feel the emotion. We feel the emotion. So feelings have nothing to do on its own. We feel the emotion. So thoughts, then emotions, and then the etheric world or the etheric energies, negative, positive, whatever you call it. And then you have the physical body. Now that is not the physical body of the human being. It is the physical matter. You become a mineral. Mineral at the physical level is the first stage of evolution. At the physical level, but even before that there was evolution going on. So as this consciousness evolves, all these things, they evolve by hammering, they evolve by working in service. Each kingdom of life, you may want to note this down, each kingdom of life evolves with service, or evolves by the virtue of service. Without service, none of the kingdom of life evolves, not even the angelics. Each kingdom evolves by service. So when you're using your vehicles, when you're using your home, when you're using your mobile phones or whatever, you are hampering and tampering with the vehicle. It's experiencing heat, it's experiencing cold, it's experiencing cutting and all of that. That is assisting the matter to evolve. Okay? So after that, the consciousness moves into a different zone. It's called as a zone between the plant and the mineral kingdom, the mosses. Have you seen the moss? It's not exactly a plant, not exactly a mineral, but it is like a plant. Mosses? Moss. Right? And there is ferns and mosses basically. Ferns and mosses. Very beginning. So consciousness further evolves. And it evolves into what? Of course, the little animals, the wild animals. The consciousness further evolves. Now I'm just showing you one, I'm just pointing out to one line. There are many other lines as well. There is the evolutionary line of the fairies and the nature devas and many more. I don't want to confuse you with that. We're just referring to the human line of evolution. There are many beings, like there are jinns, there are nature devas. They have a different line of evolution. Okay? We're just sticking to the human one. So ferns, mosses evolves into what? Plants, proper plants. Plants, proper plants evolve into animals. And of course, plants evolve into trees and trees evolve into animals, wild animals. Wild animals evolve into what? Domestic animals. Domestic animals that you have, they are very far in evolution. They are very evolved beings. Okay? And of course, when this wild animal evolves, it evolves into what? A human. Or the early man, or the wild man as you call it. This is the evolution line of understanding. You all understood? Okay, now let's talk about the ego. I'll just tell you so whatever experience you have in this incarnation or past incarnations, it is stored in your causal body. All that data is uploaded. The good news is that all of your good qualities are stored permanently there. Permanent, it is permanent. Your negative quality might be temporary, it might be seen in next incarnation as well, but all of your good qualities, whatever you have learned, persistence, honesty, clarity, strength, courage, generosity, all these qualities are uploaded in your causal body. Permanently. It is permanent. So by your virtues that you gain as a soul, that causal body evolves. In the beginning it is almost like a thread, a small seed maybe. And then it evolves, continues to evolve. Okay? Let's take a deep breath. Take a deep breath again. So, how do the plants and animals evolve? The collective experience of the plants, when it goes in after the death of the plant, when it reaches the causal world, all the collective data is stored in one space, you can say. One space. So they share their experience. You can say they have a group causal body. They have a group causal body, no sense of separation, so to speak. And again, I'm referring to the human ego. I haven't touched to the starting of the ego अभी तक. वो और पुराना चल जाएगा. Let's just to do with the human ego. इतनी बात करते पर वही काफी है. इसके beyond fuse उड़ जाएगा. Animals जो होते हैं, the animals also do not evolve on their own. Whatever experience they have, good, bad, fearful, whatever, survival, whatever it is uploaded in the causal world data of the particular animal, particular breed, particular species. So a dachshund would be having their own data pool, a Doberman would be having their own data pool, a tiger would be having their own data pool. All of that is stored in there. Now the interesting thing is when there are domestic animals evolve by 3 factors. You may want to write, but if you are interested. By love, wisdom, and fear. It is recommended that the animals do not evolve by the virtue of fear. It's not a virtue either, but it is recommended that animals should not experience a lot of fear, especially in the domestic situation. It creates a terrible human being otherwise. Love and wisdom are very nice tools for animals to evolve. So if you have pets in your home, give them a lot of love, wisdom, Wisdom in a sense training, come here, go there, they understand your words, stuff like that. So when the domestic animal, see animals by habit, they are supposed to evolve in a group, as I told you. Okay? Imagine if there is a bucket of water, the experiences are like a blue shade. So each incarnation of each of these individual animals is going into the pool. So the bucket of water is getting dyed, tinged with a particular color, right? Now this particular animal who was domesticated and received a lot of love, now this has more dye or more shade or more color to it, more raw material of the experience. Now when this goes back to the causal world, because it has too much of it, it breaks from the chain. It now becomes an individualized being. And that individualized being is the human ego. So that is the exact point where the human ego was or is created. So this human ego continues to evolve over lifetimes. So people who are spiritual seekers and light workers, you have not been meditating only in this lifetime, you have been doing it for many lifetimes. Otherwise the entire space would be full. Right? So you are a very evolved being in the evolution. Right? And then of course after the human there are the masters. Of course causal body is bright and resplendent and you just feel, I've seen some angel or something like that. Right? वो एक अलग story हो जाती है. वो is a different being. And we can reach there. We can reach there. Okay? So when you evolve your causal body as a human to a certain level after several years of incarnations, you break the egg, which is the causal body. The causal body by the name means the cause of all things. Causal world, the cause of all things. This has a cause. This has a cause. Even this class has a cause somewhere there, written out there. Okay? So when your causal body is mature to a certain level in your spiritual pathway, even that ego body, the causal body breaks. And that's exactly what the mysterious alchemists call it, as the phoenix rising from the ashes. The ego no longer recognizes that it is the old self which has experience of being a matter, a mineral, of being a plant, of being an animal, or being a human. And recognizes, I am not either of these, I am pure consciousness. And Christ dies. And the resurrection happens. And when the resurrection happens, that person is no longer a human being, that's a walking divinity. Okay? So spiritual teachers are meant to be respected. It's not that they demand or they have anything with that, but we are supposed to be there. Very evolved beings. So they evolved over centuries. So again, just like with the matter and minerals, they evolve with tempering and service, we also evolve like that. Pain, sorrow, suffering is absolutely essential for us. Seeing all kinds of injustice and fighting for it, bitching about it, making mistakes, that is all part of the human experience. Once all of that is integrated with grace, with awareness, then we evolve. So that is the exact point of the birth of the human ego. Now we haven't reached the ego again, but we're just discussing about the ego. So I think human ego, I think that's more than enough. Right? Hello? Any questions? Shall we move on?
Yeah. Just I need some clarity. You said that dye gets colored. Like if you have that, you have got that love, so you'll add that love to that.
And that is shared among all the animals or the plants. They have a group soul, you can say.
So group soul means like if it's a domestic animal, so they'll have a group soul of domesticated animal.
Yes.
So it's different for different beings, like for buffalo it's different.
Yes. Even the different variety of buffalo.
Right.
If it's a white buffalo, it will be different. If it's a green buffalo, it will be
that
different.
whole this is taken beyond, and that is?
The causal world. You can say the causal world laboratory.
Actually, I need some clarity here. What happens next?
All that experience is stored in the causal world.
Huh.
That is beyond the mental, astral, and etheric worlds.
And then
The world where the cause of all things happen. So they again come now, they reincarnate. So the process goes on for many years, several years, thousands of years in fact.
Then when we take
They say that like I don't know about it, I haven't researched about it, but I'm just sharing. In theosophical teaching, they say that before Earth, Mars was the home of human beings. Mars. So whatever was plant there, now is an animal here. Whatever was animal here is a human here. So it took that long of a time to evolve, according to theosophical teachings. I'm not testing that. So it takes a very long time to evolve.
So you see, whatever, like when we take a case in homeopathy, we see that every person is tainted with some energy, right? And what happens during the case taking, sometimes they get connected to the source. Like if it's a patient of black buffalo, they'll just close their eyes and they'll speak as if a buffalo is speaking through them. You know, this happens. So it means that this time they are connected to the causal body of that buffalo pool, the archetype.
They are connecting to the, you can say they're connecting to the archetype, but it is also possible they are remembering a past life as a buffalo. So they might be having buffalo-like tendencies.
Yeah,
that's what you are thinking, that they have a buffalo energy.
Yeah.
So that past life energy from being a buffalo is still interfering with their consciousness.
Yeah.
It's still not allowing their true potential to manifest.
Right.
Yeah. So they might be triggering their past life.
Causal.
So when we do some Kundalini work and past life work, some people start chanting like some monk or in a foreign language. Some people start dancing in a particular way. Some people start acting like birds. Some people start barking like a dog.
Yeah.
So it's not that they're a dog or whatever. It's just that for whatever reason, that past life of that being a dog or something is still imprinted. Maybe they had an extremely painful experience in that lifetime. That's why the trauma is still there. So the trauma from previous lifetimes still travel on. You know, that's why it's important to release past life impressions, as they say. So when you pray, when you work with divine energy, it can erase all of that. The brilliant white light usually people talk about, is coming from the causal world and beyond, actually. That's the beauty of it. That's why I call it Sanjeevani.
Then the
I want to
domesticated-
clear also. You said that
I have
in the
stories to send. So can I bring the laptop here and
Sure.
send it here?
Sure.
in the causal plane, if someone is having something extra like color or dye, and you are having something extra, that's why you are separated from the mass consciousness of that particular species in the causal world, and you are separated from the that consciousness,
And you become an individualized being.
and you are individualized. At
Usually
that
it
point-
is shared. Usually it is shared.
Usually
But-
that's shared.
Yeah,
but
but
you are
there reaches a point, let's say, the water is able to hold only, the water is like 99% dye,
Yeah.
and it can hold only 1%. And so, an animal so goes down, incarnates in a domesticated, and let's say, generates experience of, let's say 20% dye, and comes back. Of course, it cannot fit in there. So, by the virtue of that, it becomes an individual.
Someone is having more of charges.
Yes.
Like something charged.
Yes, the
So
concentration
that-
has reached that.
yes, consciousness.
क्या बोलते हैं उसको? The threshold. Threshold has reached.
And you are separated from the
Critical
mass
mass.
consciousness in that particular plane,
Exactly.
and you have separate identity. At
Exactly.
that point, ego is
Yes,
Wow.
yes. And exactly in the same manner, what happens with people who are on the spiritual pathway? Most of the people are struggling financially, health-wise, emotionally, mentally. Most of the people, if you see the masses, with all due respect. But a lot of us, by God's grace, we are not experiencing that. Because somewhere we are not identifying with that pool anymore. Although we are not part of that pool, but we are no longer, that's what they call as going beyond the mass consciousness. So it's not nothing to say that we are elites and they are mass consciousness, they are inferior than us. It's just the way it is. It's just how evolution is. Many people do not like and actually hate the word masses or mass consciousness or elites, but there's nothing to be क्या बोलना चाहिए? There's nothing to be felt superior or inferior about it. It's just the case it is. It is just the evolution of consciousness, nothing like that. It is just how evolution happens. It is just the way it is. I'll give you one example. We are family friends with one of the very senior ex-IAS officer here in Chhattisgarh. So my mom, so we went there just to meet him, and his wife asked the servant to house help to do something. It was a very casual kind of, simple kind of thing. But the servant was not able to understand what the lady was saying, the instruction. Okay, so she started shouting, why you can't understand such a simple thing? So this IS officer, and he's very enlightened in his own way, he said, this is why he's there. Are you getting that? This is why he's there. So he was not saying that he's a dumb fellow or he's inferior. His software is just like that. You can't help it. That's why we say, we are enjoying so much of the Valentine and enjoying this and that. Why they are not? This software is not prepared. A time will come, they will understand that. They will be. And when you see your own lifetime, you will realize that you have also committed a lot of mistakes. And that's why if you go do regression, so you realize that no one is to be judged. People are just doing the best they can in each moment, in each life. People are just doing the best they can in each moment and in each single lifetime. So when you see your past life regression, like, I did this, okay, I did that, okay, I also did that. So next time you have a criminal or something, that's what the police department says, right? Do not hate the criminal, you might hate the crime. Do not hate the criminal, you might want to hate the crime. So you reach that kind of neutral state, and that is also an empowering, non-judgmental, compassionate state. Yes, you were saying something?
Yes, you spoke one more line. Each kingdom evolved
By service.
by the virtue of service.
Yes.
My question is this: just like human body or animal body, we have different bodies. Do minerals and non-living things are having different bodies?
Yeah. There's silver, there's gold, there's copper.
No, we have different bodies: like physical body, astral body, mental, and emotional.
Oh, that way. Good question. Everything that is physical has an etheric counterpart.
Yes.
Everything that has an etheric counterpart has an astral counterpart. Everything that has an astral counterpart has a mental counterpart. And everything that has mental, astral, etheric and physical existence has causal counterpart. So yes, they do have.
Because ये body नहीं होगी तो how they will evolve?
वो plane dimension है ना, उसको वहाँ से जाना ही पड़ेगा, उसको spiral up, spiral down.
That's the reason we have archetypes of gold and silver and everything.
Yes.
Causal body नहीं होती तो किसी का archetype होता ही नहीं.
Absolutely, causal body is as much as the source of trouble. It is like the Pandora's box. Have you heard the story of Pandora's box? There was no pain or suffering in the world. So there was a girl, Pandora. She opened this box. She was not supposed to open this, and then pain or suffering, and people started getting bothered. भानुमति का पिटारा, that's what we call it.
गोल्ड इस प्लेन पे है तो पहले कॉजल बॉडी में गोल्ड का वो बनेगा, एनर्जी बनेगा, तब तो क्रिस्टलाइज होगा.
Absolutely, that's what many people when they do manifestation work, you will find that they say that if you do manifestation work in your mind regularly, it really cuts off your physical labor. Why? This is the secret. Now we know the secret. Remember always when you want to write this, that subtle things are more powerful. Subtle things are more powerful. So as they say, pen is mightier than the sword, right? Subtle things are more powerful. So when you begin to access those subtle things by your training, your occult training, by being under the guidance of a proper master, so that really cuts down your time of suffering, cuts down your time of hard work as well. So whether you want to make money, whether you want to manifest good health, whatever it is, if you regularly use visualization along with feelings, mark my words, visualization along with feelings, you will have like sudden changes, and people will be surprised how could you do that in a one incarnation, but you have your so-called secret, and do not talk about these things like openly in public. But I think with the book like The Secret and Law of Attraction, people are very much open to understand it, but they also need more guidance about it. The book The Secret does not hold all of the things. It doesn't talk about karma, good karma, the necessity of generating virtue, compassion, and good karma. They don't talk about it. They just say just visualize and things will happen. So it might happen in the beginning, then it will just stop because you don't have that fuel anymore. The fuel of good karma. That's why we do a lot of service. So we are not very nice people feeding people and doing charity. We have our own interest. We have our own interest of evolution. So vegetables evolve. When you eat the vegetables, they evolve. When you use animal products, they evolve. When as a human you serve each other and the higher beings, this is like a very dignified incarnation, because you can channel from up there to down, and from here earth down to up to the heavens. You can give feedback. You're a bridge. You're a very sophisticated amazing being as a human. I know many people won't like it, but yes, it's true that it's a very gifted body that we have. It's priceless.
Subtle things.
So these affirmations.
Subtle things means more refined. Pen is mightier than the sword. Something
Water
like
can
that.
cut the stone.
The affirmations and
Water is
the-
subtle. but-
Water can cut the stone. Your thoughts and emotions are very much material. They're just subtle. Just because you can't see them doesn't mean that they don't exist. But when you are near a clairvoyant, a person who is sensitive, they will tell you, oh, you are under stress, I'm feeling itchy. That happens. That's called.
Affirmation helps to reduce the struggle of physical body.
Visualization. Visualization along with feeling. So affirmations, when you practice affirmation with feeling.
With feeling.
That
And visualization.
feeling is the gunpowder, remember.
Yes.
Feeling is the gunpowder. If you do not have gunpowder, you won't have potency. You need potency. That potency is feeling. So if you want to manifest something good, have that feeling that okay, it's already there. On the other hand, we tend to worry so much and put in so much of fear. We're like, I don't want this kind of, I don't want to, I don't, universe says, okay.
So, like you said, let's say there's one file of all the beings being recorded, right? So as soon as a person with a more pigmented being, that's a separate file altogether, or is it a separate pool altogether?
You're talking about animal becoming the individualized human
Yeah.
ego, that point. Yeah, it's a completely separate
So
concept.
let's say there's a dog Tommy, which has a really good
Experience.
So as soon as that happens, it's a separate file for Tommy.
No, we have to make sure that the pool where dog Tommy belongs, that pool is tinged enough. If it is not tinged enough, it will simply add to the pool.
Okay.
As I said, there's water, there's 99% dye, there's space for 1%. Tommy the dog had maybe 0.5%. Again, it will merge. But Tommy the dog has 25%, and of course it will come and won't be able to fit in. There will be a new file. And that new file will be the beginning of the human journey. That is how the human individualized ego happens. And that individualized ego manifests as the wild man, early man. And that further evolves into something as the leader of the wild man. That further evolves something as very basic manual worker kind of thing, like farmer kind of thing, very basic jobs which does not require a lot of skill. And that further evolves into a scientist, evolves into a general average human being. That further evolves into a scientist or an artist. Scientists and artists are geniuses, they are very evolved. And that further evolves into a light worker, a spiritual seeker or a sadhak. And that further evolves into a arhat or a arhat. That further evolves into a master. And the master's journey also continues in their own way. So we have to just bother with the master.
That's it. In that sense, so this is done. Let's say 99 was there, the score of the lower pool for now. And this descended to the higher pool. And it made another pool. That's my question. So it would make another pool so that if this person...
It won't need another pool because now it's an individualized evolution. Previously, all the evolutionary experiences were shared. Now it won't be sharing. Whatever is his personal experience, it would be his personal experience. So all
So
those...
now, as soon as let's say the file Tommy has been created, this is through different lifetimes that it would evolve.
Yes. And it would, and it has evolved before, like as plant and a mineral.
As plant.
Yeah.
So don't we have a common pool of all humans?
No, we do not have a common pool of all humans.
Tommy has a common pool.
Yeah, we are not Tommies.
No.
Humans
We
have.
have
You are
an
already
individual
100%.
Akashic.
Yes.
You are already have 100% because that die and 99% is like a ability. But when it turns to 100%, it means you have the ability to be a separate identity.
You're contributing more to the pool than...
If you are not having the
like-
100% ability, you cannot be separated from the pool because you cannot have the identity. Now you are 100% have ability. Now you are 100% and you can take a different shape and new identity. Otherwise,
Because
you
the
will become
experience is shared.
So
That
then we
experience is
have an
shared.
individual Akashic record of
Yes.
the...
This is where the Akashic records are found in the causal world.
Yeah, this is where Akashic...
They are not in the etheric world, they are not in the mental world, they are not in the astral
record of
world.
Nita is...
Akashic records.
We are not a pool there.
Yeah, we are not a pool. But the interesting
But
thing
we're
is,
connected, no, somewhere else.
But the interesting thing is there's a concept again of group souls in the case of humans. If you have an affinity to some people, you will tend to be drawn to them. You will just look into them. Like when I looked into these two beings, Sunita ji and Radhika ji. The first time when I looked into her, I was like, she is not connected, but she will come to. So these two were like I quickly identified some past life. So there are friends you identify, na? So that's an affinity. So they're drawn to me, I'm drawn to them. And you also have the so-called repulsion with other people for past life experience, but you don't know why. So it just happens. The point is to release the human soul from raga and dvesha. Raga means too much attachment, dvesha means too much hatred or craving and aversion. The point is to release those cravings and aversion and come into this neutral zone where I am is enough. Beyond attachment of hatred or love. And so this raga and dvesha, they bind the soul, they bind the jivatma. You are a proper jivatma when you become the human ego in the causal plane. You are a proper jivatma. Right?
Then what is collective consciousness?
Huh?
Then what is collective consciousness?
Yeah, the collective consciousness is the major vibratory rate of a planet that certain or major number of souls choose to vibrate with. There are planets that are filled with enlightened beings. There are siddhas walking in the planet. Like the Arcturus and the star of Arcturus and Arcturians, they say they're all enlightened beings. They're all 7th level plus initiate. There are planes called as Siddhashram where only there are beings. There's also a plane with some of the Tirthankars, Mahavidya Kshetra, they say, right? So there are beings, like in Pure Land Buddhism, they say there's a particular place, Pure Land Buddhism, where all are Buddhas.
So what we read in the autobiography of a yogi, like Yukthananji, when he met after his death, when he met Yogananji, that story of another world, like
Hiranyagarbha Lok he talks
yeah,
about. Yeah.
It was similar like that.
Yeah. There are many planes and dimensions. There are many planes and dimensions, and we don't need to bother about it. We just need to bother about how we can, experience neutrality. In your neutrality is your power, not in your positivity. In your neutrality is your power. When you are able to find that neutrality, so when you're neutral, you are able to use the negative forces in a constructive way. Are you getting that? When you are operating from neutrality, you are able to use the negative forces in a constructive way or diplomatic way, in a healthy way. Just like you two were discussing something like that. Right? You two are wearing the similar kind of thing, I believe.
Yeah.
Huh? Or maybe the exact dress, I don't know.
And then dress also.
Black and white.
Dress also.
Funny. So this is the example of the pool. Okay.
So, can you mention that neutrality वाला how to?
Neutrality क्या?
आपने इसको अभी किया ना how to work with
The field of neutrality.
Neutrality. When you're
Working
operating from the field of neutrality, you are able to use the so-called positive and negative forces for creative purpose, for the service of God, all that is. So you're able to pull a sword as well. You're able to shoot arrows as well. Are you getting that? But if you're stuck in I am positive and nice thing, I'm not going to hit you. Someone else will come and cut your throat. Okay. Anyway.
Of the fact that zero is considered neither positive.
Yes, zero.
So it falls into like it can be used anywhere.
Yes, and it's absolute power. Zero amplifies the power.
The goal is to be zero.
Yeah, the goal is to be zero. The goal is to be, as in the tarot deck, they say the fool. They are the king queen archetype. But many rare people know that the absolute or the highest of the expression of the tarot is the fool. So when you see Real Masters now, one of their symptoms is they act like a fool. You're like, you get confused. No. You will keep getting confused. But the world won't understand now. The world won't understand now. The general world won't understand now. So, enough of that. Now, what is the history of the self? Anyone dare to? Or the history of love?
History of love.
History of self. Whatever it is.
It would be somewhere around these
लिखते जाओ.
Causal body. What's
Write it down.
your causal body?
This is the last segment of our class today. What is the history of self? And I'm not talking about ego, I'm talking about the self. The consciousness that was evolving all the way through different kingdoms of life.
History of self. Big Bang.
Big Bang. Okay. There have been many Big Bangs. Continue to happen out there in the universe. Yes. Ishu. History of self.
When the source decided to experience itself in different bodies.
That is exactly the point. Now you're tuning in. That is exactly the point of creation of the ego, not the human ego. When God said, Ekoham Dityo Nasti, I'm getting so bored. Now let the one be manifested as the many. Let the one be manifested as the many. Ekoham Dityo Nasti. Ekoham Bahusyam. That's exactly what, not Dityo Nasti. Ekoham Dityo Nasti means there is no duality, I am everywhere. And Ekoham Bahusyam means I am one, let me become many. That's exactly the point where the ego started. Now you actually said it. We almost missed that zone. Okay. Yes, Big Bang. And what you guess? Source likhe. Okay.
उनका आंसर लिख रही
अच्छा. और
Soul realization.
soul realization.
Self is beyond time and space.
What is the exact point of the generation of the self? Like the history of the self?
It's beyond time.
It's beyond time and space, she is saying. Okay.
Not able to imagine even.
Good for you. They say that if someone asks you for the truth, the answer will be given in silence. Because it cannot be put in words. Now you're reaching out there and then
So self is eternal, not destroyed. Plus eternal, it's a soul that is
eternal. Eternal and
no clues.
no glue. Okay.
When I become one,
कुछ मंगाऊं समोसे वगैरह ढोकला थोड़े से समोसे मंगाना और
We are having a good time here. Celebrating Valentine's Day as Valentines for each other and dhoklas.
Happy beings celebrating.
when I become one with self,
When she becomes one with self, that's the point of the generation of
One
self.
with God.
Generation of one.
One with God.
When she becomes one with God, that's the point where the self happens. Okay.
Aham Brahmasmi.
Point is ki when did the self start?
When did the
Don't
ego start?
When you
repeat the.
realize this.
Huh?
When you realize this.
When you realize this, okay.
Aham
Soul
Brahmasmi.
realization का
Self-realization, when you realize.
soul everything.
Aham Brahmasmi when she realizes.
When I realize
That's the point when the self
the God
happens.
in myself.
When you realize the God in myself, then the self happens. That's what you're saying. Okay.
Human self. Question.
Self.
You are
I'll have good masala for roasting.
That's why I'm correcting. No, we don't. want
Don't
the
try to
roast.
help them. Don't try to help them.
But it is so sweet.
So,
Taking care of
Srinivas
her.
and Rashmi ji are saying that when I realize that I am one with God, that's the point where the self is generated. Okay, so I'm like, okay, ठीक है.
be there.
सबका हो गया? Everyone wants to include here? Anyone else? Done?
What's above causal body?
The self is beyond the causal body actually.
That's what like what's above it.
Oh, Atmic body, there's monadic body, and there's logoic body.
Is
They say that when you realize your oneness with the monad, you become a god-like being, or literally people start seeing you as God, you can fly and do whatever things. And when you reach the logoic body, you are absolute God, you are a Parabrahma, you are a walking Parabrahma, literally. You are like, I see Krishna, I see Allah within you and all of that, like Shri Sai Baba Mani. And the evolution continues anyway.
can be said at the monadic body.
Which one? Oh, the generation of the self. Yes, you write it.
Then you know, you see and you accept the the bright and the dark part of yourself. And
Complete acceptance leads to generation of self. That's what you're saying.
yes.
Okay. In my head, I'm saying how egoistic both of them. When I realized that God exists, God exists. Anyway, let me record it for you. You also said something like that, no? Soul realization.
आपका आंसर लाइक दे कैन नॉट बी डिफाइंड
और बाकी नीचे के पॉइंट्स क्या थे?
इटर्नल क्या लिखी
One with God.
when you realize you're one with
When you
God
realize that you're one with God, that's where the self is generated.
And second.
then when you realize
Okay, next.
monadic body
Monadic body.
and then when you have complete acceptance what मैं यहाँ क्या लिखना चाह रही थी eternal
Eternal. The soul is eternal. किसने बोला था? Someone said soul is eternal. Self is eternal. Something like that. But anyway, the question was. You know, some of you might wonder that are we going to have a separate meditation or not? The thing is, we don't need it. If we talk about these things with other people, other masses, so to speak, they might start hallucinating and take a journey. Because your vehicles, your chakras, your consciousness is prepared, your subtle bodies are prepared, that you're able to receive and churn out those things and enjoy it. This is more than enough of a mark of evolution. You're able to churn into it.
Self is nothing but God. Self is nothing but God.
Yes, self is nothing but God.
God self.
Karo next experiment.
सर को मजा आता है देखिए काम आते हैं लोग फिर पता नहीं पॉज कर पॉज क्यों देखिए
They don't want to hear about the Doklas. Okay, so क्या? So what is the self? What is the self? The self is God. Who said it?
Me.
So, someone said कि self started from the Big Bang. The answer is yes or no? Yes, no?
No.
Yes, no?
No.
Yes, okay, sir. No. Because there have been many Big Bangs. Some scientists even suggest that the Big Bang was not the beginning of the universe, but the end of the previous one. The previous one ended, that's how the Big Bang. Oh, Bible में in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The Holy Word, Shabad, Satnam, Shabad जो बोलते हैं. That's the. Someone said soul realization. You become a soul realized being when you realize that you are not a body, you are not the mind, you are not the emotion, and you are the soul, or the collected causal body. But that causal body is very limited in its own existence. It is very powerful. You become a very powerful person, but not a completely enlightened person. Arhat, Arihant, whatever they call it. But this is still a place like where we should all focus on. At least become soul realized. Baki to bhul jao. This life may at least try to be there. Then someone said it's beyond time and space. So, what does it mean if it's beyond time and space? What does it mean? Someone said it's beyond time and space. What does it mean it's beyond time and space?
It was always there.
It was always there, it will always be there, it has always been there. So this is the correct answer. Cannot be defined. Very correct answer. Eternal self is. It is eternal. Okay, right. One with God. So, or when you realize your oneness with God. So someone said when you become aware of God, then you have the beginning of the self. It's like having the day and realizing, when I become aware of the sun, I will realize that the sun exists. When I become aware of the sun, I will realize that the sun exists. So this was a very interesting answer given by two wonderful people. When you become one with God, or when you realize oneness with God, until I realize you don't exist, but when I realize you come from me.
I
That's what happens.
I created you because I realized
I'm still higher than you. Okay, वापस गेम चला गया तुम्हारा ego में. वापस आए बेटा सांप सीढ़ी में 99 पहुंच के तो 99 की स्क्वायर वन and you're like this person has started his spiritual journey.
जबरदस्त ईगो इशू है ये।
Exactly. This is a जबरदस्त ego influence.
ये एक्चुअली ये wrongly praised है, वो इधर कॉलम में आना चाहिए, वो इस कॉलम में आना चाहिए।
That is what I'm saying ना कि even after doing sadhana, if a disciple stuck like this, so they are back to square one. So game of snakes and ladders होता है ना, you are reaching 99 and suddenly the snake bites you. That last snake is the ego. Bites you again, you move back to 1. We have read many holy scriptures na, where they talk about very evolved saints and beings who enter into some kind of lower.
Asaram Bapu.
There are many people. Like now, let's talk about fallen saints or fallen angels as they talk about. You see. A lot of saints in all religions, not just Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, others, they end up with getting corrupted, especially for their sexual lives. Okay, there have been great masters like Osho who would publicly say, "Yeah, I am not anti-sex." He never said that I made love with this woman or what, but people knew that he is having his own thing. His disciples might have got arrested for whatever distorted teachings they were doing, but Osho was never caught like that. He was very open, very fluent like that. Now what happened, a lot of so-called Puritan groups of people that exist in all religions. I'm very much sure these kind of people exist in our families as well somewhere, right? The interesting thing is they might be wanting to ban the Valentine's Day in the parks, but they have their own, they are doing their extramarital thing, they are doing, I don't want to name it, you understand what I'm trying to say, right? So, thing is ki, when you have a distorted perception about sex energy, if your perception is not that, okay, it's natural. I'm not saying that become completely involved or become completely separate. There are two kinds of groups. One say suppress it. One says get completely involved in it. Both extremes are bad. You have to find moderation. Okay? You have to find. What happens is, when you have a negative attitude about sex, and when with spiritual practice the Kundalini bursts like an atomic bomb, it releases a lot of energy from the root to the sex chakra, front, the sacral chakra. So, that kind of disciple, if he or she is not transforming that sex energy to higher chakras, to creativity and other stuffs, he or she will end up as a sex maniac. They will have strong sexual urges. There's nothing wrong with strong sexual urges, but their sexual appetite would be a whole lot. Okay? A whole lot that cannot be satisfied by just one or two persons or like an encounter. I'm not saying that they have a license, but what I'm saying is that because they have a negative attitude about sex energy, the sex energy remains stuck. They keep judging it, you are bad, stuck. Keep judging it, you're bad. It keeps remaining stuck. So when you have a healthy attitude towards sexual energy, the energy naturally goes up and down and flows and nourishes your body, your mind, your psyche, psychology. So these so-called fallen saints, they have done a lot of social welfare. We must recognize them in all religions. I personally have a lot of respect for Asarabji. I know this might sound very contradictory, but yes, whatever happened was not good. But what happens is they have done a lot of work. We should never fail to recognize that. But yes, why they fall? This is the reason they fall. Because they are trying to be too puritanic, having negative sexual. I used to listen a lot of sermons of him in the morning, respect him a lot. But then I saw him criticizing the Western civilization too much. And I had already read Paramahansa Yoga and he was very open and okay about it. So I stopped listening to him. And since I stopped listening to him, maybe because I stopped listening to him, then he got into this scam. So that defines that when I realize God, I will say the God exists. And I mean, it would be really great to have some video of that, but I'm actually concerned of my tummy. It's not that much. So the next point was the monadic body. Someone said monadic body is the beginning point of the self, just like the human ego. Well, the monetic body is just one of the bodies. There are other bodies like the logoic body as well. And there are other higher dimensions which we do not have the capacity to grasp. Our capacity to grasp actually stops somewhere near the causal body. That too when you are very spiritually evolved. Usually the common man's capacity stops beyond the physical world. They do not even understand how the heart functions. That's the physical world. When we are a bit intellectual trying to understand healing and all of that, you understand etheric energy, etheric world. And just like the physical world, there are many etheric beings, astral beings, and it's much more complicated. It's like a big basket under a small basket under a bigger basket. So you can say the causal body is a big basket, and then inside is the mental body basket, inside is the astral body basket, inside is the etheric body basket, and then you have the little human body. And that we think that is the absolute. When we identify this, we have issues. When we realize that we are the soul, life is a different wavelength, different frequency. So that is also not correct. Complete acceptance, I mean, when I completely accept myself with all my shadows and light, that is the generation point of self, that is also wrong. Because you are trying to accept myself. That again goes back to that is another snake bite. So
the correct definition of self is it a part of God or is it God?
It is beyond time and space.
The correct definition of what?
Self.
Huh?
Is it like realizing that we are part of God?
The correct definition of realizing the self is
Finding the God within.
Soul realization.
again you are stuck to the same snake. Why you want to go to that same snake? Go to the Kundalini.
Just to explain the question.
She is not here. अभी आप 3-4 बार सुनना है इसको.
अपना जगह चेंज कर.
Expression and divinity.
रिपोर्ट भेज तो
To explain the question, अगर self is equal to God, then of course it's eternal. But if self is just a part, us realizing that it's a part of God, then it must
Self is as much as God. It is as much as part of God. When you try to understand the truths of the higher world, it is multidimensional. It is not black and white. It is somewhere grey. Are you getting that? So we are talking about some way beyond. So we are not even. They say that when you tap into the astral world, you are operating in 4th dimension, and this is something we can't comprehend much, unless you are a very smart scientist and think about this figure of cube and cuboid. As the plane evolves, the dimensions also keep evolving. So I have forgotten why I said that.
The question is if self is equal to being part of God.
So what I was saying is that the self is as much as part of the God, it is as much as God. Just like the ocean, there are waves. So we are like the waves. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. Make me the sea, oh make me the sea. Make me the sea, oh make me the sea. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. So do thou, my Lord. So do thou, my Lord. Thou and I never apart. Thou and I never apart. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. So the end of spiritual process is not how much sadhana you do or how much Guru Kripa you have. You also need that grace of that Supreme Being. So even to have the desire to serve, you need grace. Even the ability to serve, you need grace. As Yogananda would say, even to have a desire to know God requires very, 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 very good karma. Imagine how much merit you might have generated in your past lives that we are here and understanding all of this, right? Including all of you on YouTube. You're just not getting the door class. Someday we might kill you if you come physically. So the self is as much as part of God, it is as much as God. So both are correct. It is multidimensional. It is almost like you are a girl, you are the daughter of your mother, you are the daughter of your father. So it's one and the same thing, but defining from different angles. That's multidimensionality right there. Right? Very simple. So you are God as much as you are part of God. But the good news is, as we end this class, is we thought that we became separate from God. This was our perception. Okay? We thought that we became separate from God. This was our perception. There's a wonderful bhajan. They talk about this veil of separation. It says, घूंघट के पट खोल रे तोहे पिया मिलेंगे घूंघट के पट खोल रे तोहे पिया मिलेंगे. And then what's next? धन जोबन का मान न कीजो धन जोबन का मान न कीजो झूठा इनका मोल रे झूठा इनका मोल रे घूंघट के पट खोल रे तोहे पिया मिलेंगे. So if when you remove that veil, घूंघट के पट, you will find your beloved. So Valentine, say absolute permanent, no anxiety based, no cheating based, no manipulative, no toxic, permanent Valentine. No. That will not even die with when you die. Right? So again, because I'm tapping into the higher dimension, I just forgot why I started the bhajan. Anyone remembers why I started the bhajan? What example?
From God.
That is the
Yeah. So it was our perception. Our perception is the veil. So when you realize that I was never separate from God, I was the one who put out, what's the word for that? Feet failure. What's the word for that?
Turned my back.
I was the one who turned my back from God, thinking that God does not exist. But God was always there saying, beloved, come to me. Thank you. Happy Valentine's Day.
God वाला question रह गया.
Okay, I have a question. Okay, just say.
ऐसा कहा जाता है कि कलयुग में जो कि आ चुका है उसमें आप भगवान का नाम ही लो तो
yes. कलयुग केवल नाम आधारा जैसे.
हाँ. तो हम जो लोग जिनको मालूम है कि loving God is even better than worshipping God and worshipping.
What's the difference between loving God and worshipping God?
Yeah, let's not get into that. Like I love God. Okay, I love God from the core of my heart. And मेरे लिए वो जो rituals होते हैं वो उतना matter नहीं करता दिया जलाना या अगरबत्ती जलाना जो भी मैं करती हूँ फिर भी. But I'm more from heart towards the God and mainly Krishna. So while I feel that I'm continuously connected to Krishna and दोनों तरफ से चल रही है बातें और प्यार और मोहब्बत सब कुछ. बीच में ऐसा होता है कि ये वन साइडेड फील होने लगता है. ये जो लव विद गॉड है वो कभी कभी ऐसा लगता है कि कृष्णा या तो ही विड्रॉज या फिर ही गोज समवेयर फॉर सम अदर वर्क. माय लव कीप्स फ्लोइंग और वो मुझे जब रेसिप्रोकेट नहीं फील हो रहा होता है या उसका एब्सेंस फील हो रहा होता है तो मन में कंप्लेनिंग मोड नेचुरली आने लगता है कि वेयर आर यू, आई डोंट फील यू एट ऑल. तो ऐसे तो कहा जाता है कि सिर्फ आपका नाम लेकर ही आपको पाया जा सकता है. यहाँ इतना कुछ हो रहा है लेकिन फील नहीं हो रहा. आप कहाँ हैं? ऐसी वाली फीलिंग आती है.
That's what I'm saying. That घूंघट का पट, that perception is blocking. Once that perception is removed by His grace, by your sadhana,
टेम्पररी आ जाता है उस बीच में.
It does come temporarily, I think, to all of us at some point.
Yeah.
The more stronger sadhana is, the less you will have that awareness that you are separate from God. The more connected you will be in that zone. It's about your sadhana. The more intensify your love for Him becomes.
Yeah.
You might think that my love is enough. I'll tell about a very interesting story here. No offense intended to one of my acquaintance. She's a wonderful energy healer. I won't take even the name of the modality. I went to her to meet once, and she was talking about Mahavatar Babaji. She said Mahavatar Babaji has given darshan to so many people practicing Kriya Yoga and all of that. And now people are doing different versions of Kriya Yoga, so the original version is lost, it's very rare and all of that. And she said, I love Mahavatar Babaji so much. Hello? She said,
Yeah, I'm listening.
she said, I love Mahavatar Babaji so much. I have been doing this meditation for so long. I'm not into Kriya Yoga, I want to learn Kriya Yoga. I love Mahavatar Babaji so much. Why does it come in front of me and give me the Kriya Yoga initiation? That was the point. I was just smiling at her. Like, this is the reason he's not coming to you. You think you have the arrogance of your bhakti. You think you have the arrogance of your love. If you think that you can buy God with that kind of arrogance, sorry, God won't come. God will only come when you have the absolute surrender. When you are no longer even saying, I surrender to you. Even when you're saying, I surrender to you, I surrender to you, I love you, that is also the ego. So what does God or Krishna does, or whatever consciousness you call it, they will destroy you. They will destroy you. All of your conceptions, all of your this and that. Until you melt like something like a salt in the water, salt in the ocean. When you're like, fana ho jaoge na jab, then you are like, okay. Yes, please continue.
Too much trying, you mean?
Yeah, too much trying, and somewhere might be also an arrogance. You need to check within. I'm not so sure about. You need to check within. Is there an arrogance of my bhakti? Is there an arrogance of my love that I'm putting so much love, I'm not getting it? If there's some kind of bhav like that, some kind of emotion like that, it is more like a business. It is more like a transactional business. So Krishna will play with you like that. He does. So he will keep playing with you like that. Unless you move into the zone of Nishkam Bhakti, or I'm not saying that this is better or that is better. It's okay. It's okay to have Sakam Bhakti to get something, so that we realize we have more faith in God, whatever. But God reveals, I will just use a traditional approach, Himself when you dissolve. When the I dissolves, you will have God. As long as there is this I, He will keep making you run. There's also one more story. Yes, He will keep doing that. For incarnation, I'm not joking. Very brutally, He will do it for incarnation.
There is a prose of Rumi also, which I had sent Sana once. There is a fine line of ego. जिस दिन वो break होगा ना, you will get him.
Yes.
You know, like कितना भी तुम बोलो कि you don't have ego, but there is one fine line.
And the saying that I don't have ego is in ego itself.
Yes, so you have to जो बोलते हैं सूफी में that word वो जो बोलते हैं.
Anal Haq.
नहीं एक और word था, I'm not getting that word. नहीं. So you just keep on repeating that, and then जिक्र का ही वो album था वो, and then that fine line जो आखिरी बोलते हैं ना आखिरी जो एक तार हो जाता है ना, वो आखिरी तार भी जब टूटेगी ना, then you will get him.
Yes.
Like that is the one dissolve. हाँ.
In that
बहुत सुंदर है वो जिक्र में. I'll send you that.
Yeah, and as you said, this reminds me of that song from Junoon ना, खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे, बता तेरी रज़ा क्या है. मतलब before writing the destiny of everything, He will ask, what do you want here?
एक सेशन में somebody asked this.
जिक्र में जो वो word था ना अल्लाह, like अल्लाह, when you do that who and then that wheel breaks. Exact way Allah.
Yeah, that who is like
you are surrendered and that wheel breaks. And
this is the center. This throat is the center of the
Allah
concrete mind. This is abstract mind. And when you're doing Allahu, so you're opening up this, and so you're going beyond the limitations of the concrete and abstract mind. You're tapping into the soul.
That
so you're having access to that.
The wheel breaks and you find Him.
Yeah.
He's there.
Yes, exactly.
one of my sessions somebody asked कि क्यों ऐसे होता है कि हम एक practice कर रहे हैं and suddenly it feels कि it's not working. And then फिर what should we do? We should keep on doing this or should we find another practice? I said कि जब आप किसी से relationship में होते हो, you find ways to express your love. You find ways to express romance. If you take that practice as trying to find something new to express that love, तो ना ऑटोमेटिकली आपको ट्राई करने में भी आसानी होती है. भी आप और मैं ही हम एक ही चीज, गॉड में ईगो नहीं है, मेरे में ईगो है ना. मैं एक ही चीज कर रही हूँ, मैं बोर हुई हूँ. तो नाउ आई फाइंड समथिंग एल्स, सम अदर वे टू एक्सप्रेस माय लव. एंड ऑल्सो व्हेन यू लव समवन, जब इश्क तक पहुंचने के लिए ना खूब तपना पड़ता है, जज्बात निखरना है, उसके लिए दर्द आता है, लॉन्गिंग आती है, फिराक आता है, फिराक महसूस होता है. जब आप जलते हो ना और वो शिद्दत से मांगते हो कि तू चाहिए, तो वो ईगो ब्रेक हो जाता है फॉर फिजिकल प्रेजेंस, तब इश्क आता है. वो इश्क निखर के आता है कि आप एक हो गए, बस हो गया कहते हैं ना. इवेंचुअली यू मीट गॉड, you have dissolved in that consciousness.
That's what the line है ना ताल मूवी में. क्या वो अच्छा 2 लाइन है ना. गुड़ से मीठा इश्क, इमली से खट्टा इश्क, आधा ये पक्का, धागा ये कच्चा, रब सबसे सोना इश्क, रब से भी सोना इश्क.
It was such a beautiful.
So happy Valentine
इश्क बिना क्या जीना यारा, इश्क बिना क्या. So that's it. Thank you so much everyone for joining in, and happy Valentine's everyone from our side of Raipur. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining in. It was great. Thank you. Bye bye.